Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Good morning, everyone. Smart cities. Smart cities by some is defined as the potential of everything Rajiv just talked about, fulfilling the promise to the user in a particular city. The user being the citizen that lives there, the worker that goes to the job every day, or the traveler that happens to be visiting that particular city at that particular time. It's all about unleashing the potential for most effective and efficient experience, leveraging everything you just saw coming to life in an integrated and interdependent way, holistically. Now let's talk about two pieces: the trends that we're seeing, and then the important ingredient, people, to make this come to life. Today, when you look at the concepts of cities and what's important, 1.3 million people around the world move into cities each week. 30, 40 years ago, we had 3 cities around the world that had more than 10 million people. Today, we're 20 plus. In the next decade, that number is likely to quadruple. When you look at those cities, those major metropolises that are driving economic and social change, they actually represent 65% of the world's population over the next few decades. Many of that coming from Asia and Africa. Areas that these concepts can come to life quickly in a scaled way because of the use of social, mobile, technology, cloud, and the like. And oh, by the way, 600 of the urbanized centers around the world right now generate 60% of the world's GDP, fueling the growth not only for those particular countries or cities, but better prosperity for the individuals within them. The trends are clear in terms of the needs to think about smarter cities. Our own PwC survey describing the world in 2050 goes to 3 or 4 major themes. First, the GDP growth around the world over the next couple of decades will double. While the population growth is relatively small compared to that, but what it proves is that the productivity, the efficiency that'll come from everything you see at this conference, everything that Rajiv just talked about, comes to life, i.e. the potential is there for some unbelievable things in terms of what has to happen. Much of that comes from emerging markets. Much of that is needed by developed markets. Developed markets today sitting on old infrastructure, things that weren't and aren't able to be visualized and capitalized on, as was just demonstrated. But in an emerging market with a clean sheet of paper, this can be scaled quickly and capitalized on. And the emerging markets that have historically been defined by the benefit of cheaper labor, lower manufacturing costs, quickly will turn into how can you get a better experience for the consumer, the resident, the taxpayer, and the like, in a world that is connected in terms of the consumer demand and the B2B demand that ultimately everybody will be connected to. And that will require significant change. The fourth industrial revolution that was just described, coined by the World Economic Forum about 2 years ago, does in fact start to transcend us from leveraging everything that's available to us. Broader technology, which encompasses digital, Internet of Things, robotics, artificial intelligence, the infrastructure needed to make it come to life in an interconnected way to maximize that potential. You see it day in and day out. You see it walking around this conference in the many booths that are demonstrating it. You see it with GE or AB&B, as was shown in the video, in terms of why are they, as a corporate entity, historically involved with industrial products, going digital. It is all because of that connectivity and the benefits that come from it. You see it in the hotel rooms when you show up now and you have that smart device in your hand that's your personal device that at some point in time can not only open the door and avoid the check-in, but knows your personal preferences to create that great experience. You see it in traveling around the world where elements of the benefits of a smarter city come to life in terms of how you travel, how you reside, or how you work. I had a recent opportunity to interact with the CEO of the Dubai airport. And when you think about Dubai as an airport, for those that have been there, fairly good, some would argue great, experience for the person that walks in from the time they show up at the airport to the time they get on the plane. Clearly, the demand that that airport will have will increase when you look at the number of travelers going to the Middle East, but equally as important, as a transient place to go to India, into Africa, or elements around the world. And the next speaker will talk about that in a few minutes. But what you don't see right now is the potential that's being fulfilled when the CEO of the airport thinks about how do I actually maximize my infrastructure because more planes will be coming in, more individuals will be coming here as a connection point. How do I minimize the disruption that comes from long lines, either at the check-in gate, at a newsstand, or maybe even while boarding the plane? And today, he's able to pull out his device from wherever it may be sitting around the world and know, based upon technology, digital data analytics and the like, visualization included in that, how the long lines are stacking up in one queue versus another, and how he, from remotely, can move people to get more support to eliminate the queue, to allow for a quicker, better experience when somebody's trying to get into the gate and ultimately the plane that they want to move on. He also has the ability today with the information necessary to take the right actions in terms of where the support should be if, in fact, an airline or the airport is causing a delay in terms of what's happening for that traveler. Again, creating a new and different experience that is much improved compared to perhaps some other infrastructure, other cities, other countries, which you know when you travel around the world is good in some places, getting better in others, and could be great on a more consistent and better place. Now, when you just take what Rajiv just talked about and bring it all together, the most important element to enable its success is the concepts around people. And it is a topic that is probably not talked about much in this conference, where every organization, including PwC, is talking about the implications of how to change, or the technology that we are using or developing. But at the end of the day, in order to get and fulfill the potential, we have to step back and say, what are we doing around the people aspects to enable the potential to be realized? And as Mary said, I want to spend a few minutes on that. One element of this is education. Think for a second when someone talks about the adoption of technologies and the word education. Traditionally, what comes to mind is, do I have the right skills in the workers to leverage, maybe first create the technology to bring this to life? And that is absolutely fundamental for a country, a city, a location to be fit for purpose going forward and to remain relevant in the future world that is coming and coming extremely fast. But there's another element of education. If I'm in charge of a city and I've got budget constraints, if I'm in charge of a city trying to plan out the next 10 to 20 years, the education I need is what's the potential that's out there. What is happening on a worldwide basis in the smallest company or the largest company that actually enables me to leverage it, bring it into my planning process, and allow for it to come to life to benefit my taxpayer, my citizen, my traveler, or whatever the case may be. Awareness of the potential that's there is hugely important. And conferences like this do a great job of demonstrating that potential. The other element of education, though, is around the implications and ultimately the results that we're looking for around adaptability. If I'm walking into a particular city and I am not comfortable, either because of privacy issues, because of the implications of me not knowing how to do things and leverage what app is on my device, we'll never achieve the adaptability of the potential that rests. So the other aspect of education is, how do I educate the consumer to leverage the potential that is there for full maximization of the potential of a smart city and a different user experience? Yesterday I was in Madrid and we were talking to a particular bank CEO about how they are using technology, social media, social aspects, mobile aspects, around changing their platforms and changing, in fact, what their business should look like, their business model. And what we got to was the issue around demographics. A 21-year-old might be really easily adapting the technologies that are there today. You see it in China, for example, in terms of how banking is being done in a social way, in a mobile way. But for the 52-year-old that's not comfortable with that technology, that still wants to go to the branch, that has an implication. He's talking about making sure I got the right technology. We, PwC, started talking about how do you actually get the adaptability of that 52-year-old more comfortable with using the technology available to them. So it increases the usability, the acceptance, and ultimately fulfilling the full potential. And this goes back to how we think about people and talent in the mix. If we are not thinking about necessarily the raw ingredients, education to create this stuff, but equally as important, the education needed to adopt, smart cities in broad scale do not come to life. That potential is not fully achieved. And that's where I think we, the business community, we, government officials, we, community leaders, have to do more to create the awareness, the acceptability, and the adoptability of everything you are seeing in this conference this week, to bring a smart city to life, to not only get a better experience at the airport, but to eventually have the autonomous vehicle connected to that airport to know when you're arriving, to have the virtual reality established and the facial recognition established to know when you've walked into that airport, point you to what gate you've got to go to, eliminate the need for check-in because it's automatically done, and you've already passed through security, immigration, and the like in a technology-enabled, digital-enabled way. That's the full potential of a smart city that creates a different user experience. That's the full potential that people are looking for as they plan for cities, plan for that urbanization I talked about, and do it in a cost-effective way. And the reason that's important is because cities today, countries today, don't have enough money to actually make the investments with the debt that has been created to make this come to life either. Which gets me to the second element of how we think about people. It's the human aspect. The human intervention that needs to happen as we talk about these concepts and bring them to life. Do we understand well enough what that person is thinking to think about the adaptability or the acceptance of his or her project and your offering? Have we created enough of a human connection to understand how they think, why they make the decisions they do, and are we actually attacking it the right way? We can talk about emerging economies, we can talk about developed economies, we can talk about different economies around the world, but in order to make this potential fully come to life, the human interaction, even though some may argue what we're talking about here is reducing the human interaction, there needs to be more of it. And the interdependency and the interconnectivity that was just demonstrated in a real-time way requires humans to be better and, more importantly, emotionally and intellectually connected to one another to fulfill that potential. Let me give you the example. We at PwC spend a tremendous amount of time with community leaders, government officials, and corporate leaders. If I'm sitting with a king or queen of a particular country about how they're dealing with the increased population, then think about what they need to do to plan for that city, to deal with urbanization, and how they want to bring in technology that helps with security, healthcare, logistics, recreation, education. That personal interconnection in terms of priorities, the element of care, the value that they are trying to bring to its citizens, that country, its current leaders, its future leaders, its youth, that emotional aspect of what drives that individual is equally as important to the decision-making beyond the economics. And that's why this concept of the benefits of technology, the benefits of digital, the benefits of all the aspects that we've talked about have got to bring a people element more so than we're doing probably at this conference and more so than we're doing around the world than ever before. And you see it with the implications of sort of how the world is changing rapidly. And if we as an organization, and I mean the ecosystem broadly, are not focused on that, there is a missed opportunity. The bottom line of my message today, folks, is this concept of the need for smart cities is evidence when you look at the trends that are happening. It is needed to make sure the money is being spent in the right way to ensure sustainability and the quality of life and to deal with the benefits for all, not just some. The ingredients of the infrastructure that Nokia just described, or the robotics that Airbnb is bringing to the table, or the service offerings that we at PricewaterhouseCoopers or PwC are bringing are all there for the taking. But if the human element is not brought more into the mix, we'll never connect the dots to get that recipe baked to deliver something that is actually fulfilling our potential. Bottom line, if you want smart cities, you need smarter people. You need people that are educated about technology and what's happening. You need them educated about the potential that comes from it. You need them educated around how can I actually enhance adaptability and enabling that success, and taking all of this from concepts to actions to results and doing it in scale so we can benefit the world. Looking out at this audience, we've got smarter people with those three ingredients. Our challenge is how do we actually take this and convert others to make sure they are smarter about that future world and smarter about the actions they then take to capitalize on and ultimately achieve what a smart city truly can deliver in terms of its potential. Mary, thank you very much for allowing me to join you today. Folks, enjoy the rest of the conference. Best wishes and enjoy yourself. Safe travels. Thank you very much.
Bob, thank you. Really, that was great. Appreciate it. So, okay, we've talked about technology. Had a fairly incredible demonstration of that. And I think what's so often missed, and I think Bob's completely right, is why are we doing this? We're doing it to make our lives better. Sometimes it seems a little difficult to imagine that all of this technology and what we're trying to do is really going to do that. But I think smart cities, in many ways, when you think about it and you think about the vision that smart cities encompasses, is a great way to think about what our life could be like in that environment. And it seems like a little bit of a stretch. So what we are so thrilled to be able to have today is someone to talk about what it means to take a city and make it smart. And doing so that it truly is, from your perspective, from my perspective, from a citizen's perspective, better. About making my life better, making my children's lives better, creating an environment that is one in which we are all going to benefit from that. So we have today with us Her Excellency Dr. Aisha bin Bashir, who is the Director General for Smart Dubai, which is the office that the government has initiated to create and make and transform Dubai into a smart city. And she's been leading this initiative since 2014, so she's got feet on the street and has been doing it for a long time. So I would please love to welcome her to the stage and want you to join me in welcoming her as well, please. So thank you. I will leave you to it, please. Thank you.